And we're live here on Facebook. Like to welcome those listening in podcast land, and also like to welcome my buddy Rich. Rich, how you doing this week?
I'm doing good, Mike, and also welcome to those folks joining us over on YouTube. Take two, I guess, Mike. So we apologize for folks that are receiving a Balls and Sticks is live notification on their Facebook feed or on their phone for a second time this morning. So, Mike, how was your week?
It's been good. Um, we've been we've had some stuff going on throughout the week with work, or with church. So it's been nice to hang out with some of the guys. Danielle's actually had a women's night. She took Grace, or women's coffee breakfast thing. Took Grace, and they went over there to do that. So yeah.
All right, that's good. Not much new here down in the Quad Cities. Just another uh, routine week at work. Still trying to kind of adjust on how I'm going to balance my work schedule with added responsibilities at work. But it's going good so far though. So no complaints and really nothing new on the personal side.
Good.
All right, Mike. So we got a pretty big show. Of course,
Yeah.
lot to talk about this week as well. We'll be giving you a preview of our favorite team, the Chicago Bears. We're going to go week by week and tell you whether they're going to win the game or whether they're going to lose the game.
Yeah.
As and as well as we're always talking about the Chicago Cubs a little bit.
Yep.
Mike, what else are we going to be talking about this week?
Well, we got the NASCAR corner, and we got some quick hits to talk about, including a new name. All
That's
that
right,
and more,
Mike.
but let's roll the intro. Broadcasting live from somewhere in Iowa, this is Balls and Sticks, the podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Rich. Okay, we're back. So, Rich, before we get started, we do have a poll question to get into. Let's get into it now. Bears over under 6.5. That was this week's poll question. How did you vote?
I went with the under, Mike, and we'll get into detail. And we'll get into detail on how we came to the under and what that number is later on in the show. So, Mike, where did you go?
I went with the under.
Oh, right. How did the fans vote, Mike?
The fans voted the over.
Huh. Okay, so the fans are thinking that they can get the 7 wins.
Yeah. So 4 votes for the over and 3 votes for the under.
All right. All right. So what? So I'm thinking the people that voted for the over are probably like the optimists, the optimist Bears fans that maybe not under the delusion that they're going to go undefeated, win the Super Bowl, but maybe that they can hit over 7 games. That was probably me last year,
Yeah,
thinking that they
you
could do
definitely
better
were.
than they really were. Than they really were.
I'll give you
And
2 names on that over list, and you tell me.
okay,
One,
I'm gonna say Matt Myrer.
no, he didn't vote.
Okay.
One, a Mrs. AJ
Ooh.
Hendricks,
Okay.
and number 2 also has the last name Hendricks,
My dad. My
Mr.
brother.
Mark Hendricks.
Okay. All right.
So those are 2 of the 4 that voted for the over. Are they
All
the
right.
optimists or are they the delusionist?
I think they're optimists.
Okay. You better not call your wife delusional.
No, I'm not. So who joined us as being more realist on saying that more than likely they're not going to make it the 7?
It was some random person, Ashley Eldridge. So
Okay. So cool. Thanks, Ashley, for voting in the poll. I think that's a new name we haven't really seen on our polls. So
yeah,
thank
yeah.
you. All right, Mike.
So
So this week, we're going to be going with what we're going to kind of call Jock Jams. You remember those old albums, CDs that got put up in the 90s, I think it
yeah,
was?
pump
90s,
it up,
2000s?
pump it, jam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or stadium songs. So this week, we're going to go with Sweet Caroline, Lazy Mary, and Tequila.
Okay.
All songs that, when they play, the fans join in, singing along, gets them on their feet. So that's where we'll start
Bum
this
ba da da
week.
da 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 da. Every time I
Tequila. Every time you hear that, you can't, no matter what, you can't, whether it's out at a restaurant, at the ball game, at a stadium, you can't help but shout tequila when it gets to that point,
yeah,
can you?
either that or I always think of the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie,
Hmm.
but
For
that's me.
for tequila.
Yeah.
I see. My thoughts go to Pee Wee Herman, Pee Wee's Big Adventure, when he's in the bar like doing the dance to tequila.
Oh man. Yep. So we'll see how that votes. I have some suspicions on a couple of people that are going to vote heavy on this one. Uh,
So yeah, we'll get that up after we go off air. So Mike, do you see what's coming up next?
is it a left turn, Rich?
It is a left turn, and after that, Mike,
We do have a right turn because we're heading to a road course in this week's
that's right.
NASCAR Corner, presented by Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated, Moline, Illinois. Check them out for all your sports memorabilia needs, either on Fifth Avenue in person or on their eBay store. Once again, that is Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated. Okay, this week we had the Federated Auto Parts 400 in Richmond. Rich, your pick of Martin Truex Jr. did quite well. He finished in seventh.
Did finished in seventh. So I'm happy with that
solid
start,
spot.
but not but he did not finish above Denny Hamlin, who finished fourth,
Correct.
and your race winner was Kevin Harvick. So Mike,
Yeah.
regular season, it's 18-8 now, Mike.
Wow.
18-8.
So
So good for Kevin Harvick though. Going into Michigan, being outside of the playoffs, being I think he was like 3 cars down from even making the playoffs, to now being within the top 5 in points because he's won back-to-back races.
yep. Guy's gonna be in pretty up there for going into the playoffs. It's gonna be great for him. Which we are 2 weeks out from,
Yeah, 2
This
weeks
week's
out.
and
We got
next
the
week.
Glen.
and
We
then
got the Glen this week, and then Daytona.
next week after that, before we start the playoffs, but after the playoffs have been determined, Rich and I are going to give you a preview of who we think's going to win, and we'll look back at our prediction at the beginning of the year. This week, like you said, we are going into the Watkins Glen for the Go Bowling at the Glen.
Yep,
Rich,
go bowling at the Glen.
I am going to take someone who does quite well at road courses in Chase Elliott.
Chase Elliott's a great pick. You can't go wrong when there's a road course on the schedule for the week to pick Chase Elliott. So I will go with Tyler Reddick.
It's a good pick.
He's done really well at the road courses this year as he won the Indy road course.
Yep.
He won the Indy road course. He's constantly been running within the top 5 for all the road courses this year.
Yeah. So,
Fantasy, before we leave the NASCAR corner, though, real quick, Richmond Raceway on the fantasy side, Mike. I won the week with 226 points. The Bunkhouse got second with 195. Mikey came in third with 178. Dupo was fourth with 176. And the Easers, 145. Overall, Mike, I'm in the number 1 spot still with 4384. Mike, you're in the 5 spot with 3608. And the Easers, the team you're chasing, has 3876. But just like our kind of like predictions changed during the playoffs, the and the NASCAR playoff standings kind of start over in the playoffs with the playoff drivers. So too does the fantasy NASCAR standings, as there are playoff standings and overall standings. So nobody's out of it yet. So if you're participating in our league every week, which looks like all five of us are, there's still a chance to come out and win the overall, the overall season, even if you're in fourth, fifth, or third place to come back and win it for the year.
Yeah.
All right, Mike. Anything else to talk about before we make left turns, but around the diamond?
I don't think so. I mean, it's exciting to see Kevin Harvick prove that, don't count him out. If you do so at your own risk. So yeah, let's head into the diamond as we look at the Cubs week in review. Man, the Cubs are on fire this week.
Yeah, I'd say it helps when you face the Reds and the Nationals, but they beat two playoff contending teams this week too, and getting wins against the Brewers and the Orioles.
Yeah.
So great week for them.
They won they went 5-2 show to show, bringing them up to a 51-67 overall, 15 and a half games back in the division. They are, however, in third place in the division, so that's kind of our consolation prize this year. We are looking at they are 13 and a half games back in the wild card. Rich, our prediction wasn't far off.
It wasn't. 4 wins.
Yeah, we both said 4 wins. This week it's going to be a tough week. And we actually are, if you look at our next few weeks in our schedule, it's going to be a rough couple of weeks as we have lots of playoff contenders to deal with in the next few weeks.
Yeah, interdivision playoff standings too. So a lot of rivalry games.
Yeah, so Rich, what do we got this week?
Yeah, they get to play. They'll finish up the weekend with the Brew Crew, Saturday, Sunday, and then the St. Louis Cardinals come in for 5 games. Now they do play a Friday night game in Milwaukee, but I'm not sure if we're going to record Friday night or if we're going to try and fit it in Saturday morning, so I'm not including that in our show-to-show predictions.
Okay.
Because I'll be in Milwaukee on Saturday.
Well, good.
On Saturday.
The 27th?
Yes.
Yeah, I have stuff going on that day too, so we should do it Friday.
Okay.
So
cool. So 7 games, Mike.
Yep.
They have a chance. These games are all about playing the spoiler. Because right now I think there's only 2.5 or 3.5 games that separate the Brewers and the Cardinals.
Yeah.
So if you could take 3 out of 5 from the Cardinals, that could get the Brewers back in the playoffs as long as they can win their games.
Yep. The big note on it is that I mean, for today and tomorrow, the Cardinals are cheering for the Cubs, and then the rest of the week, the Brewers are cheering for the Cubs.
Yeah. And then the following weekend, when the Cubs go up to Miller Park, American Family Field, whatever they're calling it now, the Cardinals will be back to rooting for the Cubs.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. I think the Cubs are going to get 3 games out of it. It's rivalry games. They should be able to squeak out 3 between these guys.
Yeah, I like 3 as well, especially with one of the games with the Cardinals being a doubleheader. It's hard to sweep a doubleheader, but at the same time, we've said that before, and the Cubs get swept in a doubleheader.
Yep.
Go figure.
So, other news around the league. Where do you want to start on that one, Rich?
Let's kind of go back to our leftovers of Fernando Tatis banned 80 games for testing positive for a performance-enhancing drug, even though it was a banned substance from a medication that he took for ringworm.
Yeah, this is one of those things uh, that
It's a tough situation. I mean, for me, I'm thinking that you would have thought that he would have reported that sort of illness to the team, and the team would have been like, up, looked it up, take this, here you go, take
yeah,
this, and the team doctor prescribes a medication for it, not necessarily maybe going down to the corner drugstore, or from our perspective, the corner drugstore, and thinking, all right, I got ringworm, I need to get this medication, and then not even thinking twice about looking at the ingredients.
yeah, that's the hard part. These guys have to. You have to
Yeah,
look at everything you put in your body, put on your body, everything. Is it right? I don't think so. I think it's a little bit of an overreach, but again, it's technically a banned substance. He used it. He's got to deal with the consequences now. So I guess that is right.
yeah. So he's going to miss all of this year. And but the good thing is, I guess, for the Padres is that if they advance far into the playoffs, those games count. So it'll be so the further they go in the playoffs this year, the sooner they will get him back for the regular season in 23.
I mean, if you're the Padres and you're up 3 games to nothing, do you let them win 2 games so that you can?
To go 7. I don't know if you go that far, Mike,
Well,
but
no, you only let them win 2 games. You let them win 2 games, so you go to game 6. That gives you an extra
mm,
3 whole games or 2 whole games in the series.
the momentum comes into play there.
Yeah,
You don't
that's
want to give
true.
a team the momentum of a 2-game winning streak just so you can play 2 more extra postseason games without one of your star players.
Yeah, I think it's one of
It's
those
a
that
blow. It's a blow for the Padres, though.
it is.
Big blow as
It
they
is.
were. He was looking to start. He was on a rehab assignment on his way back to rejoining the team when this happened.
Yeah. It'll be. It's one of those things that, as a professional athlete, you have to know everything going into your body. And he misjudged what was going on. And
Yeah.
that hurt him, and that happens. So, okay. Um, Also going on this week, I guess it was the leftovers. The Rangers fired Chris Woodward.
Yeah, the Rangers fired their manager Chris Woodward, and that happened this week.
Oh,
And also, the president of operations, John Daniels, also got shown the door.
wow.
So I think this was just kind of almost like an example of we invested in the team and
You
it
did,
didn't meet expectations. But
yeah,
supposedly, when you read into the story a little bit more, there was some problems with bullpen management. But the Rangers didn't have a good bullpen anyway. So I don't get how you can fault him for bullpen management when you didn't give him a good bullpen to work with either.
yeah. That's pretty rough. And then yeah,
So he becomes the fourth
fourth.
manager fired this year, joining Girardi, Madden, and who's the fourth guy? Trying to think here. Maybe there only has been 3 this year so far. So who else well, we've kind of already discussed who else could be on the hot seat, and I don't think any new names have joined them besides LaRussa and probably Donnie Baseball, Don Mattingly.
Yeah, and I think Larusa probably gets a pass this year, but we'll see. So, um, breaking. I think it was last night I saw Braves outfielder uh, Marcella Ozuna has been
Hmm.
arrested on a DUI. Um,
Yeah, and this comes almost on the heels of him serving a PED suspension last year.
yeah, that's gonna be rough. Look for another suspension to come out of this. Probably a fairly long one as well, and he may be facing jail time depending on the situation. So
I've never gotten professional athletes, whether they're a big name, great, well known player, star player for the team, or somebody like Ozuna who's just part of the team, but you know who he is.
right,
how do you not have?
Time
How
out,
does the
Rich.
team not say "Wait,
I got a
designated
I
driver"?
got a friend whose kid plays college football
Okay,
at a Division two. I think he's up to Division two this year.
all right.
The coach at the first day of their training camp, you get your book. In that book, there is a number. They say, this is your number. If you need a designated driver, if you need help with anything, if you need to get out of a situation, not like anything, like them doing anything illegal for it, but mostly if you're in a spot and you need help, call this number. If you need a D, if you need a DD, if you need any of these things, call
If
this
you need
number.
it, yeah.
We'll be there. We'll get. Doesn't matter where you are. We will get somebody to you in order to get you home and not let you destroy your future. Every NFL team has it. I guarantee every Major League Baseball team has it. Stupidity is the only reason why you get arrested for a DUI as a professional athlete.
Yep.
By the way, stupidity is the only reason you get arrested for a DUI. We could end it there.
Mm-hmm.
There is no reason. I guarantee you there are a dozen people that are saved in your phone that if you called them right now and said, I'm drunk and I need to get home, no questions asked, they'd come pick you up.
Yep.
Guarantee it. And
Yep.
if you don't have those dozen, if you don't know who those dozen people in your phone are, you need to make better friends. So, yeah, that's a bad look for the team, for the league, for him. We'll see what comes of it, but again, it's just now happening, so we don't know what the league's going to do with it. We might talk about that later when the league comes down on it. Rich, again, I put this as a topic. We have had more examples this week of umpires making terrible calls and the players getting frustrated with it. One of our favorite players in the league came out and made arguments about the fact that there is no accountability for umpires in the league.
Yeah, and that's something that could fix it. Robo-umps could be the direction the league seems to go in, but if you don't want to bring in robot umpires or having a automated ball and strike zone because you don't want to ruin or evolve the game or ruin the
Framing.
history of the game, accountability could be the way to do it. Grade the umpires, and
Yeah.
at the end of the year, maybe you have a promotion and regulation system to where maybe the top graded umpires
They
at
have
AAA
that,
get a
Rich.
chance.
They have that. If you don't, man, I keep wanting to do a story on her, and her story deserves to be told and shouted from the rooftop. A friend of mine, and I think you know Rhea Papagiorgio. If you don't, that's all right. She was a minor league, made it all the way to. She did something with. I think it was the All-Star game. But got to know a lot of the managers and people like that doing well. At the end of the year, got her grade, and for no reason that anybody can logically account for, her grade was lower than it should have been. It cost her some stuff. She ended up having to sue the league, winning, and her story is pretty amazing. She's an amazing lady. She was the first female umpire to get as high as she did, and now but they have an accountability, but it's just little. It's basically just a good old boys club deciding what your fate is. It has very little to do with how you actually do in calling balls and strikes.
Exactly. Isn't it basically the way that I almost think of it, it's kind of like a tenure system.
Yep.
You've reached there's only so many spots for major league umpires at the major league level. And once you get that slot, it's very, very hard for the league to say, nope, to fire you or punish you because of the hard contract that the umpires union has.
Yeah, it's
the league.
Kind of ridiculous.
I mean, how many years did we complain about Country Joe West?
Hate that guy.
And
I don't hate that guy. I just think he made some really bad calls, and legitimately, you can see where specific teams, and it's not just the Cubs. There's a few teams out there that he got under his skin, he didn't like, and you can look at the games that he called, and they are very biased against teams that he doesn't like. And it wasn't just the Cubs, folks. There were 2 or 3 teams in the league that, if you look at their winning percentage when he's behind the plate, it's below their average winning percentage that year, or in general. It's ridiculous. So, okay, let's move on from there. Leave the field and head to the gridiron, as we have the NFL to talk about this week. We are done with our divisional previews. We are talking about the Chicago Bears this week, and only the Bears this week. Next week we are going to have our fantasy preview. Just tune in. We're not going to necessarily give each other our top picks, but we'll give you some ideas and people to look for sleepers, buyers bewares, and top five players in each position. That doesn't necessarily tell you where we're going to go right away. So we'll do that next week. As Rich and I are in like 2, maybe 3 leagues together, I think. I don't remember. It all depends. Okay.
Basically, one for sure, one confirmed.
Yeah.
The others are kind of up in the air.
Yep. So let's get into this week. We are going week by week into the Bears' schedule.
Well, before I guess we go week to week.
Yeah.
Anything that come out of training camp that you've heard about, read about, or watched? So I haven't watched any preseason football.
I haven't either.
Whether it be the Bears or anybody.
I haven't either. But what I have done is read a few articles, and Fields isn't looking like the savior everybody hopes him to be.
Okay. The article that I've read sees that they're kind of taking it step by step. It sounds to me like they're almost properly developing him. As the ESPN article that I read looked at, they were trying to make his footwork just like Aaron Rodgers, which makes sense because Luke Getsy was the quarterbacks coach before the Bears hired him as the OC.
Yeah, I think he'll do well, but I'm not holding my breath. So.
Yep, you'll take the wins. You'll take the wins and the development, and if he puts up good stats and gets you a win, great.
Yeah.
The wide receiving core looks kind of rough.
Yeah.
Definitely, maybe starting to feel that maybe we should have addressed that position in the draft.
As always.
Because think about it. Daryl Mooney, on any other team, is Daryl Mooney a wide receiver 1?
No.
Could you see him
actually
as a wide receiver 2?
No. He'd be a 1 in one other team.
And who's that team?
The Green Bay Packers.
Okay.
Tell me I'm wrong.
Okay, based on the depth chart, I could see Mooney being a 1 on that team.
That's because they don't have it. But I guarantee you they're going to do better this year than the Bears because they have a man behind center called Aaron Rodgers. We previewed that last week. Check that show out if you want to know how we feel about that league, about the division that we are playing in. Okay, this week.
Well, yeah, but But yeah, Venus Williams. Nobody heard of that guy until he got drafted.
Yep.
Brandon Pringle was a third or a fourth string wide receiver in Kansas City for a reason. Amariquis St. Brown was a fourth string receiver in Green Bay for a reason. And these are the guys that we're going to be depending on to move the offense through the air.
Yeah.
Defense wise, Roquan Smith wants to be out. Wants to be out and traded.
Yeah, that's a scary one for you.
That's kind of disappointing because I've liked Roquan Smith, seeing him develop and maybe turn into, if he can stay on the team, keep developing, keep developing that reputation, could be regarded as one of the better great linebackers in franchise history if he keeps his upward trajectory.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about that one. So, yeah. Is Cole Kmet going to have a good year this year?
I hope so.
Well, I'll ask the question. Actually,
Okay.
again, because we're previewing the Bears, we're Bears focused. That's who we're about. Let's ask it this way.
Okay.
I know next week is our fantasy preview.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anybody on the Bears right now you would pick up in the draft? I'm not saying pick up mid-year to cover off week. I'm saying in the draft right now, anybody you're picking up from the Bears.
The only guy, the first guy that comes to mind for me is Cole Kmet, but as a backup tight end to cover the one, with the sole intent that he's only got to play 1 week, and that's to cover for the bye week of the tight end that I draft to be my primary tight end.
It depends on who I draft as my primary tight end. Because if I draft somebody that's off on week 9, maybe week 10, I think about it. That's the Dolphins and the Lions, by the way, for those that didn't know. If you're picking somebody that has one of those weeks off, maybe the Cowboys, but outside of those 3 teams, the Falcons. So between weeks 8 and 12, because the Jets are in there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the only weeks, and those are the majority of the teams have those weeks. So sure, I'd think about it. But I actually have one that I would probably pick as an early pick.
And who's that, Mike?
Not early, but as a draft pick, I suppose. The kicker, Carlos Santos.
Carlos Santos. That's right. The team could be kicking a lot of field goals this year.
And however, he's been pretty good and pretty consistent.
However, on the flip side, they could also be getting shut out a lot of weeks. So you might not. You could get low numbers out of your kicker if you're dependent on Santos.
And the offense isn't going to get. He's going to have lots of long kicks. That's my thing. He'll have long kicks, and he'll have lots of them.
Okay. The only other player that comes to mind is David Montgomery. You know they're going to run the ball a lot, but for a running back, you need to draft a running back that's going to get you touchdowns.
Yeah.
To get big points.
I still don't think
I don't know how many touchdowns David Montgomery could get.
I don't think I pick up David Montgomery.
I don't see myself drafting him either, but he's one of the fantasy relevant players on that roster.
Sure, maybe. But yeah, I think the kicker's the only guy I really would target at all, and that would be, okay, is he available in the last round of the draft?
Yeah. Yeah, but the way you should be looking at your kicker is not to draft a kicker and then he's your kicker until you hit his bye week. But
Nope.
the kicker is a revolt from my perspective, and we can talk about it a little bit more
Next week.
next week on fantasy. But for a kicker, that's a revolving roster spot.
Yep.
I'm gonna get the high guy that's hot, and I'm gonna get the guy that is scoring points on a week to week basis. So if the kicker that I got might last 2 or 3 weeks that I originally draft, but if the numbers aren't there, I'm gonna pick up a guy that's hot.
Okay. So let's get in week to week with the Bears and their schedule.
That's right, Mike. So I need to go back to the balls and sticks prediction workbook here, because that's where I have mine. All right, Mike. So week one, Mike, they post Trey Lance and the runners up in the NFC last year, the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah.
Win or loss, Mike?
That's going to be a loss.
I agree. That's definitely going to be a loss for me as well.
Okay.
Next week, Mike, who we playing week 2?
Week 2, we make the trip up to the frozen tundra where we play the Packers in what should be a pleasant game, temperature-wise.
Yeah. Mike, I'm going to give that one a loss.
Yeah,
I think Aaron Rodgers could still be trying to develop that chemistry or what their offense is going to look like with an unexperienced wide receiving core, but I think it's still going to be a loss.
Yeah, I agree it's a loss. And then week 3, the Houston Texans come to town. The Texans, we don't know what they're doing, and they don't look like they know what they're doing. That might be a win.
I gave them a win for that game too. So yeah, I'm going to stick with a win. I really don't have too much more to say about the Texans. So Lovie Smith returns too.
Then we have the Giant. We go out to New York to face the Giants. I think it's a close game, but I think home field advantage tips the scales on that one.
No, I'm going to give. I think we can go out to New Jersey, go to the Swamp, and get a win in that game.
I don't. Nope. The week after that, they come up to
the Washington Commanders come in for a Thursday night game on Amazon Prime.
We're still on 5. We haven't talked about the Vikings.
5. The Vikings. Yeah, we're going to go up to the Vikings. That's a loss.
That's a loss. I almost thought about buying tickets for that game. I think we're going to wait till next year because of the way that summer went. We're going to end up, I think, next year. So let's talk. Maybe next year go to a game either. I would be fine if we want to go all the way out to Chicago, but maybe up here.
I think I'd rather do Minnesota.
Yeah.
Tickets might be more readily available in Minnesota.
Yep.
All right, Mike. So week number 6, the Washington Commanders come in, and the Bears get a primetime game as for some strange reason, the NFL schedule makers put the Bears on a Thursday night game.
Yeah, I don't get that. I think that's a loss. I think by week 6, the Commanders have figured out their quarterback situation and are starting to play as a team.
I have it as a win right now. So that's the way I filled it out. I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to give them a win in that game against the Commanders.
The Bears then have to travel to New England, to Boston to play the Patriots. It's going to be a loss, Rich.
Yep, I agree. Even with the Patriots kind of wondering who's going to call the offensive plays and how that offense is going to look, that's still going to be a loss.
Yeah.
All right, Mike. Week number 8, they stay on the road and they go down to the Big D to take on the Cowboys.
And Dallas shows us up.
Yeah, I agree. That's going to be a loss.
Week 9,
Mike?
The Dolphins come to town. Week 9 is when weather is going to start playing a factor, and the Dolphins, the Miami boys, are not going to be able to handle the cold that is Soldier Field.
Mike, I think the Dolphins are still going to come up and get a win with Mike McDaniel as the coach. I see a lot of. I'm thinking that they're going to have a lot of same offensive philosophies as the 49ers do. So short passes, running the ball, just getting the ball in the hands of their playmakers like Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. So I don't think the weather impacts that as much.
Okay. Then the Lions come to town for Week 10.
Mike, I put a win here early on, but the Lions could surprise people this year. So I'm going home field advantage on this one.
I'm actually going a loss this time.
Okay.
Then they play the Falcons in Atlanta. I'll give them a win because the Falcons look terrible.
Yep, that's why I gave them a win as well. Week number 12, Mike, they go back out to the Meadowlands, but this time they're facing the Jets.
The most improved team this season, they lose.
I gave them a loss here too. And then week number 13, before they go into the bye week, the Green Bay Packers come down to Chicago.
I'm going to give them a loss.
Yeah, I gave them a loss here too. Yeah, Aaron Rodgers owns the Packers, owns the Bears, so I don't think that he would want to. He'll find a way to will his team to a victory.
Yep, he's got the deed title, cashed it in, paid it off. Week 14, they don't win, they don't lose, they don't draw. They end up on a bye week.
All right, Mike, coming out of the bye, the Eagles come into Chicago in week number 15.
I am going to say that's a win.
I'm going with the loss. Fly, Eagles, fly.
Yeah, you're hot on those Eagles, though, this year.
I am. I think they're going to do really well.
Then,
I like what they did through the draft and free agency.
Then Buffalo comes into town, destroys the Bears.
I agree. Week number 17, the Bears go out to Detroit.
I'm going to say that's a loss.
I have a loss as well. Home field advantage, if anything. That's why I give the Lions.
Okay, then week 18, the Packers or the Vikings come to town to close out the season. Oh man.
So do you think they can split the series with the Vikings?
I'm gonna say, and all my friends and family that are Vikings fans, please don't hate me. The Vikings are gonna be fighting for a playoff spot, and they're gonna lose to the Bears. By the way,
Right.
I am looking at it. You're right. They lose against the Eagles. Bears go four wins for the year.
You have 4.
I have 4. And I'll be happy if they get those 4.
Yep. I'm giving them 5 wins.
Okay.
Now, I agree with you. I think the Vikings game could be a win for them, but it depends on how healthy the Vikings are. Some of their best players seem to always get hurt. Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen.
Yeah.
You still don't know what that team could look like with a new coaching staff in place. So
Yeah.
I'm still giving them, but so that's why I went with a loss there. Still, I think even if they're playing, because I think they have good depth at those at wide receiver and running back where most of those injuries happen. So
Yeah, I think there's some decent. You bring up decent points. I think they're the better team, but again, I think because the Vikings are going to be playing for a playoff spot, and the Bears are going to play upset. They're going to play the spoiler, and they're going to cause that loss. I think the Vikings, that loss, it may not take them out of the playoffs, but I'm going to say it at minimum drops them to the last seed, or the last wild card, if not takes them all the way out of the playoffs.
All right. So, Mike, what for you was like maybe the one game where you were kind of on the fence on whether to give them a win or a loss?
It's the Eagles game, actually. I 100%.
Okay.
It's that Eagles game. I flip flopped on it. I took it away. I think you're right. I can't give them that win.
Yeah. For me, it's the Commanders.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know what that team is going to be look like with that. I mean, Ron Rivera's
Yeah.
even when Ron Rivera's teams don't look on paper to be very good, he coaches them up.
Yep.
But I don't know. I was trying to get the Bears close to 6 wins, and that was one game where I thought for me that's almost like a push game where that could be one game for me that I think I may change my mind on when we get around to making our Bears picks week to week during the regular season.
Um,
So do you see, are there really any games in the, because we always look at the schedules and for when we're making our week to week picks of this is a lock of the week or this is our upset pick. Do you see any matchups there within those 17 weeks that's a lock? Bears are definitely going to walk away with a win from that game.
um,
Or are these all going to be close games?
I'm gonna say the closest thing to a lock. The closest thing to a lock, in my opinion, is that Falcons game.
All right. Is the Falcons game going into Atlanta?
Mm, yeah. Well,
For
no.
me, it's the week 3 game against the Texans.
And that's the other game that I think it is. I think those are the two games that I think they have 2 wins on their season. I almost would say right now guaranteed 2 wins. There are 3 games I think they could win. I think they only win. Other than those 2, I think there are 3 games that they have the potential to win. I think they only win 2 of those 3, if that makes sense.
It does.
So
Are there any just upset games where they could be? Well, you've kind of already identified that.
Yeah.
The Vikings game, week number 18. Um,
do you have one of them?
Man, I'm struggling. I almost see the Commanders as that game as maybe them stopping a winning streak, but I don't know if I see that as a straight up upset so early.
As
in
of
week
right
number
now,
6.
I wouldn't call it an upset. They're both garbage
Oh.
teams.
So I guess if I throw that game out, I guess I could see the Eagles as being a potential upset game.
And I think a lot of people will think that too. And I think that that's one of the 3 games outside of the guarantees that I have 2 locks, the 3 maybes. That's one of those, and I flip flopped on it. And the week 15, look for me to maybe bring that as a win.
But as of now,
As of now, it's a loss.
locked in 4 wins.
Oh yeah.
4 wins as our preseason pick. We're
I don't-
kind of evaluate how they went at the end of the season, though.
Yep.
Where do you see the Bears finishing within the division?
Last.
I can agree with that. I think Detroit's going to be better. Vikings are going to be in for a playoff berth, fighting for a berth. And the Packers are the Packers. But I don't think it's going to be, just like we said last week when we talked about the other teams in the North, I don't think the Packers are going to run away with the division like they have in years past. I think they might have to fight for it.
I was trying to find the meme, but basically, if you look at stats, Kirk Cousins is one of the top quarterbacks in the league, but nobody cares because he's Kirk Cousins. I think he doesn't get the credit. I think look for this year, for him to have to play like he plays. He's gonna be a good player. He deserves the money that he's making.
So could he be this year's Kirk Cousins, an underrated, a guy that's maybe flown under the national media's radar he because he'll finally be playing on a good team that he'll get recognized for the numbers that he puts up. Nobody really talked about Matthew Stafford that much until he got to LA and put
Yeah,
up great numbers and led a team to the Super Bowl.
I think the problem is that Kirk Cousins has those abilities, and I think he could do great in Minnesota. I just we're yeah. Yeah, I think he'll be great this year. I think look for him to have a breakout year. The team's looking like it's starting to come together. Look for the Vikings to be. They might make my NFC North. They're going to be fighting the Packers for that.
You know what? Yeah, exactly. I thought about putting the Vikings as the division champ as well. But kind of like what all these years that you had with the Patriots in the East, you don't pick against the Patriots. You couldn't pick against the Patriots because you didn't know what they could or would do. So that's why I kind of got to treat the Packers. But more on that in a couple of weeks when we reveal our picks for division winners and wild cards. Look for that Labor Day weekend.
Yeah. So, Rich.
That's our Chicago Bears. Do you think the entire coaching staff in its entirety will be back for year 2? Or could you see the front office decide that, well, maybe we need a different offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator?
No, they'll be back.
All of them will be back.
Yeah. Yeah. The only way that they don't is if the offense looks great this year, our offensive coordinator
and the defense, and that's good enough to get him a head coaching job.
Yeah, I mean he's been rumored to be on that track for the last few years. I would not be surprised if you see him take some interviews at the end of the year.
Okay, that's fair.
But
all right, Mike. So like you said, next week we'll be talking fantasy. Well, we kind of give you, in our opinions, who are the top 5 of each position, not necessarily where we would draft them. Maybe looking at some sleepers and maybe do not drafts, but what we're going to call buyer beware. Maybe temper your expectations for the players.
Yep.
That we put into those categories.
So
and then Labor Day weekend, we'll give divisions and wildcard predictions, as well as maybe a preseason power rankings as well.
Yeah. Okay, and we have a Labor Day weekend. We will have a Thursday night pick.
Yes, we will have to make a Thursday night pick on Labor Day weekend since the season kicks off Thursday, the 8th.
Okay, let's move on to our quick hits. One of them is actually NFL related. Deshaun Watson and the NFL have reached a settlement. 11 games, $5 million.
I still don't think it was long enough.
No. You have a guy that partook in legal activities, having not had contact with the team, out for an entire year. So gambling is a worse offense than raping people?
Or sexual assault, rape.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sue Robinson said it best. There's no black and white policy on how many games you get for this specific case. There is specific law. There is specific rules saying you cannot bet on games.
Yeah.
You could not, because in theory, DeAndre Hopkins was going to get a longer suspension for PEDs.
Yep.
Than Deshaun Watson was going to get for violations of the personal conduct policy because of the sexual assault allegations and the civil lawsuits brought against him.
So could this lead the NFL to start making hard and fast rules about what personal conduct violations look like and what those penalties look like? Should they start to say, hey, if you are involved in a sexual misconduct in any way, minimum you get a year for your first offense. Your second offense, you get this. Do they start drawing this up as a thing? And does it have to be harsher than the penalty for which Deshaun Watson was given because of the fact that this is a huge mistake, that the NFL is tarnishing themselves with a huge 40% of the NFL's audience is female.
You have to. I mean, look
40%.
At what baseball does. Baseball has a strict policy on this, and they did that. Trevor Bauer, has been banned 324 games.
Yep. By the way,
he's appealing it, and his encounters were supposedly consensual, but they crossed the line.
Right.
So that caused his accusers to file suit against him.
Right.
And he got a year-long suspension.
Yeah.
Plus some.
He got a 2-year suspension, bro. Almost 2 years.
It was 2? Okay.
And he still hasn't gotten back in.
Mm-mm. He's wanting to appeal the suspension, which is his right to try and appeal it.
So, I think
it was Watson's camp's right to appeal the suspension.
This is where the NFL has to lay out the rule. And they say, and this is the problem, this type of rule has to be approved by the Players Association.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I'm the Players Association, I want to get these guys out of my league. I don't want, because for the Players Association to defend Deshaun Watson, it means that the NFL Players Association has to say, we're okay with rapists, with bad dudes, with thugs and lowlifes being part of our league. Any of them. If the Players Association comes against making these rules on paper, saying, and by the way, the NFL, this is what you should do. Minimum first offense, not first case brought against you. First offense is a year. Second offense is a year and a half. Third offense is an indefinite suspension. And the only way to get off that indefinite suspension is to have counseling sessions that are mandated by the league and are done, and you have to do certain things. By the way, if you meet those requirements, by the way, you're going to get at minimum a year and a half. You're going to get a minimum of 2 years, but it's an indefinite suspension until after you do that things no less than 2 years. How about that? How about I say it that way? The fourth offense. If you can't learn your lesson and you can't keep your gentleman bits to yourself without consent, that fourth time, by the way, I don't think it should go to that. I think it should be first time a year, second time banned, but we know that's not going to fly for the Players Association. Fourth time, you're banned from the game, period. By the way, Deshaun Watson had not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4. He had 4 cases brought against him that the NFL thought were the most solid cases. By the way, looking at it as one offense doesn't work for me. Each one of these is one different offense. I think he should be on strike 4, and at strike 4, permaban.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I don't think that the NFL could, in theory, change their policy and then apply that policy to Deshaun Watson.
No, they won't be able to.
No, I think you had to look at it. All right, this is what we agreed to. Because I think from both parties, they wanted it. They just wanted, all right, this is the suspension. Let's move on. And then if we want to use this case as a basis to form our new policy, and then that's the last time we're going to talk about it, that's what I think that they were going for.
I,
So, but at
again,
the
I don't
same
think
time,
this should be something that has to go to a judge, an arbitrator, anybody to decide what your penalty is. This is, I, I guess, it needs to go to them to decide to determine whether or not it has violated the policy enough for it to. Doesn't have to be like a legal trial that it's beyond any reasonable doubt. It just you go with the policy of a civil case, basically.
yeah, and then, but too, it's very mean. This sexual assault would not fall under personal conduct. That
Nope.
falls under the sexual assault
Yep.
disciplinary like little subcategories that you look at. All right, does it check the following boxes? Yes, it does. Sorry, you've been banned 1 year and you got to go through X, Y, and Z before you can apply for reinstatement,
Yeah.
which is kind of what Deshaun Watson is going to have to go through. He's getting 11 games.
Not long enough.
11 games.
Not
No, not long enough. It should have been a year. I
minimum.
still think it should have been a year.
I think it should have been a permanent ban because he didn't. If it was his first, if each
One person coming out and accusing him
yeah, but he had 4 cases that were
that the
brought as
NFL
one
considered, but 26 different people.
that he settled with. By the way,
Yeah, one's still hanging out there.
I
One is still hanging out there, does not want to settle.
I hope she wins.
Well, no, because it's coming about this. She doesn't want to settle because he's still not wanting to admit that what he did was wrong. She's proving that she filed that case for more than just that. It was more about the money for her.
I hope she wins. I hope she wins, and I hope that the settlement is he either has to pay her $100 million, or he has to admit that what he did was wrong, and then pay her like $100,000.
Yeah, and the thing is, I mean, the whole thing about the whole counseling session is that he's going to have to undergo a psychiatric evaluation, and if that independent psychiatrist or psychologist could still feel that nope, he still needs more counseling, and that could delay him being reinstated for week number 13. So there is a way that the NFL could push this out to a year.
Yeah, I hope it does. I hope it ends up being a year, but I don't think that's enough. Even, I think he's had 4 violations. He needs 4 that the league presented, and it was approved. Take him away.
Yeah. Do you think it's any coincidence that if he comes back after serving those 11 games, that the NFL made it 11 games so that his first game back is against the Houston Texans?
I don't think that has anything to do with it.
No, they just came up with nope, 11 games.
Yeah, that's what I think. Okay, final thing, big news for Quad Cityans as a non-profit organization spent $4 million to have their name on the side of a building.
That's right, Mike, as the Tech Slayer Center will now be known as Vivint Arena at the Mark.
It's Vibrant Arena.
Vibrant.
Vibrant Credit Unions, a non-profit credit union, spent $4 million. By the way, I'm a member there. So they spent as a credit union, you're supposed to give your profits back to your members. Rather than do that, they took my money and they gave it to they're buying the naming rights for the Mark of the Quad Cities.
I hadn't thought about it that way, Mike. I was more focused on hey, you can technically call it the Mark again, and not have those people saying it's the iWireless Center or nope, it's the Tech Slayer Center. Nope. You can now call it the Mark again.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't care. I like that they brought it back to the Mark, but they're taking my money and they're spending it. Give me my money. Give me my part of that $4 million. Don't use it for that. But whatever, it's fine.
It's a good marketing tool. It's a good marketing tool for them.
I suppose. Whatever. Okay. Rich, any shout-outs this week?
You know, Mike, I can't really think of any shout-outs to give this week.
I gave 2 shout-outs last week. I missed one last week. As Thursday was my brother-in-law's birthday, Tyler Allen. Happy birthday! So.
All right, and was Barbara's birthday this week?
Yeah, Barbara's was Thursday, or was Wednesday.
In between show to show.
Yeah, Barbara's was Wednesday, which is why I said it last week. And then Mom and Dad's anniversary was Thursday as well. So,
very nice, very nice.
So, Rich, people are watching us on Facebook, but they really want to listen to us in the car, and they don't think it's a good idea to watch a video while they're driving. What should they do?
You know, Mike, look up Balls and Sticks wherever you find your podcasts. Wherever you download all your other podcasts, you can find us.
Yep.
So, Mike, if they're listening to us on podcast land, or they really don't like Facebook, but they want to be able to watch us, where can they find us?
They should check us out on YouTube at youtube.com/ballsandsticks. And finally, if you want to participate in our poll questions, you want to vote for Sweet Caroline, for I don't remember the second song, or Tequila, the 2 that are going to get votes is all I really care.
Lazy Mary.
Oh, yeah, Lazy Mary. If you want to vote for one of those 3, find our fans page at Fans of Balls and Sticks. Folks, thank you so much for joining us this week. Yeah, what's up, Rich?
We also got to remind people to another way that you can interact with the show is to join our Yahoo Pro Pick'em group, where you can make picks and compete against Mike and I week to week to see who can get the most NFL picks correct.
And you will get 1 shout out at least throughout the season.
That's right. Or you could just get a shout out, just like we always shout out Easers and Dupo and the Funk House.
Yep.
Whenever we give the weekly standings check for our fantasy NASCAR.
Yeah, you will get a shout out.
One little wrinkle to the Pro Pick'em, as I guess this year Yahoo has changed it. You do have to make your picks every single week. You can no longer make picks weeks in advance.
Yep.
So it is a week-to-week commitment. We apologize for about that and about that change. We had nothing to do with it, as obviously we just use Yahoo for our pick'em tourney. If you're interested in joining, there is a link wherever you're finding our episodes, and with a group name, group number, as well as the password to join the group.
Yep, check it out. Join us. And Rich, God bless you for joining us this week. Thank you so much. We love you guys, and we look forward to interacting with you more on that page. Now it's time to roll the outro. Broadcasting live from somewhere in Iowa, this is Balls and Sticks, the podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Rich.